And welcome to the World Sports Show, Philly Sports Edition. Here with John DiCriscio. I am Charlie Flowe, your host, along with John DiCriscio. How's everybody doing tonight?
Everybody's doing good. We got a little dance party going on here.
Definitely, man. John, I mean, it's going to be hard for you to stay in your seat and do your work, man. You got a party going on in the background, man.
Hey, if we're talking about Philly, we want to hear some Philly. We got the Philly sound going on. So
all kinds of partying, different kinds going on. If you're an Eagles fan, you got to be feeling a little bit of good about yourself, a little bit of party going on. It's interesting how the NFL works, that the Philadelphia Eagles are 2-3 and sitting in first place. It seems weird to say, but they are 2-3 and in first place.
Hey, you talk about feast or famine in the league, my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, a bad team squeaking in. It's not like the East, the NFC East traditionally.
And
it's like
this is almost like feels like the NFC West of about maybe 3-4 years ago when Seattle wins the NFC West at 7-9 and hosts a playoff game, brings in the defending Super Bowl champion Saints and knocks them off. But call it what you want, weak division, no defense division, but first place is first place, and you get that Division 1, you get yourself a home playoff game.
That's the ticket. 7-9,
Yeah.
8-8.
It doesn't
Somewhere
matter.
around there,
It
that's
doesn't
going
matter.
to get you a wild card game.
And as quirky as the NFL is, you could be 11-5 like the New England Patriots a few years back and miss the playoffs.
Yeah, how about it?
So miss the playoffs at 11-5, but 7-9 win your division. It's just the way that it's set up. It's not a straight 1 through 8 type of seed. You know, you have your 1 through 6 seeds in the East and the West, but you have your 4 automatics no matter what their record is. As long as they have the better record overall and the better record in the conference, or not conference, their division, they're in.
That's right. Looking, let's take another trip to our friends in the orange and black.
Yeah, that was some bad news. I was saying, there's some good news this weekend, and there's some bad news in the weekend. You have the Flyers are 0-3 now. Fired Laviolette this morning. I mean, there's a lot of talk that it was brewing over the weekend, but we didn't think he was on that short of a leash. I didn't think that.
I thought he was on that short of a leash. One is not making the playoffs. The one factor that kind of gave me a little bit of hesitation was the shortened season.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got a team with a high payroll, not making the playoffs, coming in 0-3. What it is goal production is down super low. You're averaging a goal a game.
Well, just getting outplayed on every end of the ice, let's be honest.
And to be honest, they're winnable games. These are games that they should handle. At least put 4 or 5 pucks in the net. And, 1 goal, it's not cutting it. I mean, is it motivation?
Yeah.
I mean,
you got to get that win at home at first. You've got Toronto coming off a game at night, playing less than 24 hours ago. They're playing at Montreal last Wednesday. Flyers open up against Toronto. Came out that first period, get that goal right for it, and then since then just went blank. Just could not execute. Lack of execution.
Got muscled around a little bit. Toronto's always going to bring physicality.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're 0-3. Your coach is gone. I don't know too much about Berube, but I know when he was playing, he was one of the toughest guys I've ever seen on the ice.
So he does fit that mold of a Broad Street bully type. He's been with the organization as an assistant coach for 7 years now, and then been with the organization for, feels like 2 decades.
Yeah, you're right about that.
It's getting close to 2 decades. So he does bring in that grit and that fire. He does bring in that hunger. So anything, it maybe, Laviolette had to go, but, I mean, this should definitely be a wake-up call within the locker room. You can't get rid of players. I mean, we're going to post all the transcript from Holmgren today and Snyder making their comments, that it happens in sports. That's what Snyder's saying, is that you can't fire the players.
That's right.
But you can. Maybe some players, need to be shaken up. I mean, but who do you really let go on a Flyer? Because there's not a lot of depth. There's not like we got guys lined up in the farm system that can come up here and make an impact immediately for the Philadelphia Flyers.
Right. I mean, I think there's balance.
Yeah.
And they just need to find the chemistry. I think it's there. I mean, I don't think they're deep, but I think they have a balanced lineup. And I'm interested to see what Chief does.
That's what I'm saying. It's a new system, because the system now is not working. I've heard that a lot of the players that system. You blame the system. Now this is. What is his system going to be like? I mean, it's going to be hard to tell. They play tomorrow night, host Florida, so about 24 hours and some change, they'll have a new game, new coach. I mean, you can't change the system overnight. I mean, that's a given.
No, you're right about that. They got to work on it. And one thing, I'd like to see them, even though if they're playing physical, I'd like to see them to play a little bit more physical. I'd like to see them almost get to being almost scrappy, just to equal it out.
You make teams not want to come to Philadelphia.
Exactly. Or get some sloppy goals. If you're not scoring the pretty goals, get some sloppy goals. I mean, they're missing hitting the post. Hartnell's buying the post 2-3 times a game now. And
let's look at Hartnell. When you brought Hartnell up, I was thinking of also the Sims, that they aren't what you call the goal creators. That they're just like a Drew he can just create something. Like a Briere can create something. Briere not here now, so we can't put it on him. But I think like the Wayne Simmons and the Scott Hartnells, those guys are the grit goal guys. Like your garbage goal guys. That they just win on pure grit. They can score 20 goals just purely on just being right spot, playing physical hockey.
Sure, clean it up. Clean up the net. Yeah. And I was watching, I guess it was a couple of games back with Colorado with Patrick Waugh behind the bench.
Now you're old school, man.
Old school. Their opening game last week, and he was actually getting a little getting out of control.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll be doing that against Chief. I think Berube's not the guy you want to get out of control with.
No.
So,
man, making me think of old school. I mean, I'm having flashbacks of Waugh playing for Colorado. I remember Waugh playing for the Canadians.
Here's one for you.
When they beat LA Kings back in, what was that, 92 Stanley Cup Finals against LA Kings?
I was at the Chelios Hextall game.
Okay, wow.
Where Hextall came out of net and just absolutely buried Chelios after a long scrum, dirty plays, and Hextall had enough, come out, attack him at the goal line.
Yeah.
And Waugh was in net, actually, and I was at the last seat at the Spectrum at the very top, right behind Waugh. And I remember people throwing sodas. Like, it was just, I had to stop the game. And Waugh came out of the goal cage, and they gave him a 2-minute penalty.
Yeah.
So at the time, that was the rule. It was you come out of the crease during a scrum or it was past, the hash marks, and it's 2 minutes. So
it's interesting. A little trivia there for the old school guys out there, man. I don't remember that. Gosh, I mean that rule. I mean, gosh.
Yeah. But it was obvious that he was getting there was some stuff coming at his back, and he was irate. But good old Patrick Waugh, that temper.
Yeah, and like we were going back to the whole firing of Laviolette. I mean, it's not a surprise, but I see with the schedule coming up, Florida this Tuesday and Friday night against Phoenix. I think that was, if I was GM, I would have given those 2 more games. You get 2 more home games, but they said it's a combination of last season, kind of a hangover in the training camp. And a lot of us did, look at Flyers, a lot of question marks, a lot of doubts coming into the preseason, because in training camp and preseason game, they did not look good at all. And
you're right. They didn't look sharp.
Yeah.
They looked like they were, like that whole chemistry thing. It's going to take them a little bit to ramp up. They should have been sharp. I mean, that's coach's responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, and there were flashes against that Toronto game where they looked really good, but they have not gotten better since. You have that first game, you're like, okay, getting in the system, but I guess that Carolina game too is just, to go into Carolina and just get pushed around like that.
You're right. That hurts.
And I think that's a lot of what Holmgren was thinking on the plane rides when he made that decision. He's going to can Laviolette. Man, that's not a long plane ride either from like Charlotte Raleigh. It's Raleigh to Philly.
Right.
It's a good hour and some change, but he did some thinking.
To make Hobby Bowen look young again.
Yeah.
So one good thing is for all you Flyers fans out there, Friday night is Dollar Dog Night.
Okay. That's $2 dog nights within a week in the Philadelphia area. The Union just had their dollar dog. That's a tongue tire. Dollar Dog Night this past Saturday night. So that's another reason to get down to Wells Fargo Center.
Sure is.
Yeah, so if you want to get yourself some Flyers tickets for this next weekend's game or this next week's games, Friday night or Tuesday, it's 215-218-PUCK. Pretty easy number, remember?
That's right.
Or just PhiladelphiaFlyers.com.
That's right. So just real quick, we got Florida at home tomorrow night, Phoenix Friday night. Then they go away to dreaded Detroit.
Eastern Conference Detroit.
That's right, Eastern Conference.
It feels
Detroit,
so
Rock
weird
City.
saying it, man.
And then it doesn't get any easier than that. Next weekend, again, Tuesday at home to Vancouver.
And then the old, dreaded, hated Philadelphia has got a target on this team.
That's right.
Pittsburgh Penguins.
They got to pick it up. They have to pick it up before the Pittsburgh game. Get some steam. Good old Vancouver, Tortorella, new coach of Vancouver. I think he might be able to work some magic up there.
That's a Tortorella when he was coaching the Blue Shirts, which is the Rangers, that did its own Philly. It wasn't even a rival. It was very one-sided when Tortorella was there. It was just Rangers just rolled Philly.
He's a good coach. And, people might not like him personally, as a fan, I don't like him, but as an admirer of what he's done.
Yeah.
He's done a lot for the team. And, every coach gets fired.
It happens.
Every coach gets fired. They might not fit. Time to go. They can't come on the ice and play. So that's a tricky thing with the coaching. Even though that's I just said a lot of nothing in a minute, but that's just how it is.
It's interesting that the Tortorella might not have fit into Philadelphia because he's got that hatred. People have that New York attached to him. But gosh, what I would do to have a Tortorella coaching in Philadelphia that I went to. I've gone to Laviolette practice. I've gone to Tortorella practices. And not to disrespect Laviolette, but when I see Tortorella practices, you think you're watching almost a game. They're very, very organized.
Let me tell you something here.
Treat practice like a game, man. That's my thing.
I mean, I respect Philadelphia fans, and I think they're very knowledgeable. And if they bring any coach, say, name your team and name your rival. If they bring that coach in, they will respect that coach, and they'll love him. I mean, whoever's coaching the Cowboys, whoever's coaching the Lakers, they bring them in. They'll say, "Oh, we hate them," but once they start coming in and
you
showing
bring W's in, you bring W's in. You're in with Philadelphia.
But I can see if they're bringing in a rival player, a little bit different. But I think
it's like Troy Aikman suddenly the head coach of the Eagles. Right, it might be hard to get over, but if he starts producing,
that's different. A player becoming a coach.
Yeah, like enemy of the state kind of guy, you know. And I don't really think it. That's a different comparison. We'll break that down some other times. I think that's a good mailbag question. If you can send us in your questions, radio@worldsportshow.com or mailbag@worldsportshow.com. What rival would you never ever want to see? Coaching Philadelphia. What former coach or former player are? How long would it take for you to say, okay, but if you win a championship in Philadelphia, it's almost like that all's forgiven, man.
Yeah.
It's not all's forgiven.
Well, one is good luck with that, and two is, I think
one guy, maybe Bill Belichick. That's a Philadelphian who would never be accepted here in Philadelphia. I mean, not a Philadelphia coach.
If he comes in here and wins a championship, I don't know, man. I beg to differ.
That's a good mailbag.
I mean, people would always have that reminder because Philadelphia fans never forget, no matter what it is. But to be like, first we didn't like him. They'll give you the disclaimer. At first we didn't like the guy because of everything, But then, we got a parade.
Funny story popped in my head. You and I, we're going to break down to the Eagles now. I did a few minutes coverage of Eagles. We'll segue into that. That was an interesting story. You and I were, talking to Harold Carmichael about this time last year. And he talked about how he went down to Dallas and signed with the Cowboys. And he said he put the jersey on a couple times, that it just didn't feel right and walked out.
It's crazy.
I mean, I think it's a little different if you're the player, because a lot of coaches have established themselves through coaching.
That's right.
And there's some coaches that have established themselves player, then coach. That you can see why a guy that's just a Philadelphia legend, Harold Carmichael, it's the same thing with Randall Cunningham. He was back up in Dallas for a minute.
Quick drink.
Yeah. I don't think he really played, but he was backing up. But still, you got to put on that Cowboy jersey.
That hurt. I mean,
I don't care if he's holding the clipboard in Dallas.
Right. Just having that star.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hurt. But it wasn't, going to Minnesota. It didn't hurt so bad. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people in Philadelphia watched those Minnesota games.
That was that 15-1 Minnesota game. If Gary Anderson doesn't miss that field goal,
right? Randy Moss, Chris Carter,
they would have that would have been, I think, a better Super Bowl because they would have gone up against Denver Broncos. I thought that would have been a very You've got a pass-oriented Minnesota Vikings team versus a pounded-out Denver team. That would have been a
Terrell Davis. Oh, yeah, that was a pretty good team there.
Yeah, that would have been interesting because if I recall, it was pretty much a blowout, and the Broncos just rolled the Falcons. That Dirty Bird was clipped, man.
Yeah, he was.
Dan Reeves, man, I think that's the last time he really coached. No, he coached Michael Vick for a little while.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, Dan Reeves right there.
Nailed it.
Well, Dan Reeves, he had the luxury of working with Michael Vick. Now the big question in Philadelphia, John. I got to ask you. I got to ask everybody. Mailbag's been blown up. Nick or Vic? That's the question of the hour, man. Or the question, man. Everybody's wanting to know, Nick or Vic.
Oh, man.
I'm putting you on the spot.
You can put me on the spot. We talking for the season? We talking for next game?
All right, let's break it down both. You can redo the question to me.
Well, let's just go with say Vic comes back. I'm
ready to go.
I'm pretty sure he's out, but he's ready to go 100%. Where do you go? I mean,
we do know Nick Foles is 1-0 at Tampa.
Okay.
So he did get his one win
at Tampa
on that last second touchdown pass to Jeremy Maclin last year. So that's it's got to be a little factor in there. This is not a Tampa team that has improved at all since then. It's a Tampa team that is 0-4.
0-4.
Just released Josh Freeman last week. Now he's signed with the Vikings.
They should have beat New Orleans, though. That was a hard loss.
Yeah.
Josh Freeman's going right. Signed with Minnesota. Who's quarterback?
Rookie quarterback.
This 6'8" kid?
Yeah.
I don't know.
and Philly defense is not that defense of a few years ago where you say it doesn't matter who's quarterbacking. Like we saw the Eagles that it was a very, when Andy Reid was here, it was a very systematic.
No, it does matter.
No, I mean, years ago, you could have plugged in when they did plug in, you had AJ, you had Coy, Dempler going in, and they were pulling up wins. But that's when you had that nasty defense. Right now, it's like you need to put up points with this defense.
So on Tampa, let's just get a ballpark over. What's the line going to be for the Eagles scoring? I think they can put up 30 points.
Oh, yeah, on Tampa?
With Foles.
I start Foles just as a precautionary. A hammy's such a weird injury on the road. Let Vic have that extra week.
I mean, I think it's almost at the point where you got to roll it with Foles up until halfway through the season. You just have to roll it. Just let Vic get healthy. You don't want to kill him halfway through. I think that he's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. Just get it to the end. Just get him in the playoffs. If they're going to roll easily in the playoffs, like I think that they could, but right now it's Philly fans don't want to hear it, but it's Dallas' season to lose. Dallas has the key to the playoffs. It's just don't drop it. In which, of course, they're going to.
Yeah, don't blow this game at Tampa because they come home the following Sunday, October 20th, hosting Dallas, and then the next week hosting Giants. I mean, that's something we rarely see in Philadelphia, back-to-back.
East games, yeah. I mean, wear and tear.
I mean, that's right there. Those two games right there, that could, I wouldn't say is the season, but it is.
No, it is the season.
You've got Dallas, you've got tiebreakers all written all over. Even that Giants game, it's still craziness. The Giants are still in it. It's mathematically, but not realistically.
I mean, they at least have to beat the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Or that's season over.
Yeah, Philly.
It's early, but
Philly gets that win at Tampa, which they should, 3-3. Get that win against Dallas, 4-3, and then you're almost as crazy it is at 4-3, controlling your destiny.
Yeah, and it's very early too. And then the second half of the season seems to let up a little bit.
Well, they got that Denver game out of their system, so I mean, that loss is a loss, but it's not going to come down to week 16, week 17, hosting Denver or going to Denver. Could you imagine that situation?
Right.
Man, they got the Andy Reid game out of the way. They got the Denver game. They're done. They're in the rearview mirror.
I don't know. Reid is going to go 19-0.
Yeah, you think?
Tack on a couple extra games.
That would just eat at so many Philadelphia fans. That would just eat at them.
What? As good as they do, but the thing is, everybody knows he's going to fail. And nobody, I thought that Philly fans would care more than they do, but nobody really seems to care.
I do. I'm happy for the guy, but I look at how far is, Alex Smith going to take you?
Right.
He'll get you in the playoffs, but how far is he going to take you? That 49ers run was not responsible because of Alex Smith. He was still, he was healthy, but it was Kaepernick.
That's right.
So we've seen Alex Smith. He's flopped before, right. So I don't think he's going to go. They're going to get in the playoffs, but crazy it is, you've got them sitting at 5-0. You've got Denver at 5-0. I mean, if they're going to be a wild card, and it's going to be as a wild card, no matter what your record, you have to go on the road. It's going to be those weird thing where you might have a better record, but you're going to have to go on the road. Right. And we've seen them win on the road, but.
And I'll toss one last thing for you to wrap up the NFL.
All right.
So we got a record-breaking spread.
Yeah.
And betting coming up.
Yeah.
Denver, I think, is given 29.5 to Jacksonville.
Oh, do it. How do you not take that? I mean, Denver could bring its JV squad and still beat Jacksonville. I mean Jacksonville's like a D1 AA team, man.
You know what? I'm going to take Jacksonville.
What, to cover the spread?
With the points.
Are you serious? 29.5? All right, we'll make this interesting. We'll revisit this next week.
We'll tweet this day before, and we'll see what the line is. We'll just be friendly. But
we may be influencing the line right now, John.
It'll be bragging rights for next week, but I will go out and say Jacksonville doesn't want to get embarrassed. I mean, you got these guys. You're going to tell me, dude, you're pretty much just getting
they don't want to be
around.
Embarrassed, but
they don't have a choice to be. But they're going to play that game, and they're just going to do what they got to do to cover. They can't lose by 30.
I mean, scoring 50-plus points at Dallas. I mean, Dallas is not a pushover team.
But Dallas did put up 49.
That's the thing is, so they wouldn't cover spread then. That's the thing is, people don't realize the spread is you got to beat them by that margin of 29.5.
Right.
So it's got to be.
Say it's 25. I mean, I know it's over 25, but we'll just go with we'll get day of, even if it's 20. They always used to say to the old guys, hey man, if it's a pro bet and it's over 10 points, then something's going on here. Well, nowadays, got these high-powered offenses where 50 points is, expected. You got these guys, you're going to start seeing 60s and 70s pop up on a scoreboard.
Well, I mean, it's at Denver. It's not like it's at Jacksonville. Not that gives them that much an advantage, Jacksonville, but it's at Denver, dude. Right. Altitude, changing of time zones. I mean, it is a 4 o'clock game, so it doesn't really affect Jacksonville playing an hour or two later, but you got that altitude.
Right.
You're going to tell me they put up 50 points against the Eagles and the Cowboys, and what are they going to do against Jacksonville? I mean, is this where when Peyton just starts taking? I mean, do you take Peyton out at halftime? I mean,
why not?
I mean, that's the thing is, it's one of these games where you start protecting your players.
I mean, they take Peyton out at halftime. You see a lot of people getting up like, whoa, whoa.
Could you imagine John Fox pulls out Peyton Manning at halftime? Like, is that an arrogant move or is that a safety move?
I dropped a couple fazools on this, eh?
Well, we're going to wrap up that part of the World Sports Show, the Philly edition. We're going to thank everybody for tuning in and keep the emails coming in. There's a lot of cool contests coming up we got, especially with that, beat the over-under. John has got Jacksonville covering the spread. Right now, I say that Denver blows them out. Final score, 75 to, let's give them 2 field goals, 6. 75 to 6.
50-yarders.
I feel like it's the Chicago Bears. They'll talk. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank John DiCriscio here. This is Charlie Flowe signing off World Sports Show. Contact us anytime at World Sports Show on Twitter. Email us at radio@worldsportshow.com. And you can email John anytime at night. Mailbag@worldsportshow.com. Keep him up.
Awesome.
Keep his phone on all the time. Good night.